UFC 292, Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley is coming up soon, and guys, I cannot wait for this fight, and today I'm going to be giving my breakdown and prediction for the fight. I cannot wait for it. Like I just said, we're going to talk about the fight in just a second. Before we do, though, I do want to say hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels. Let's start off with the tail of the tape. Man, this is a good fight. And long story short, guys, I have a hard time picking a winner for this one. So, Aljamain Sterling, he is on an incredible win streak. The last guy to beat him was Marlon Moraes, and since then, it's been nothing but wins. But the problem is, and you guys have heard this so many times when we talk about Aljamain Sterling, there are nothing but asterisks next to his recent wins. So, if you take a look at his last five, of course, he had the fantastic win against Corey Sandhagen. And guys, Corey Sandhagen was always a great fighter, but of course he's improving now. This loss has aged incredibly well. This is something about Aljamain Sterling that people don't... It's tough because the asterisks are there for his wins, right? Like, there's something to say about a lot of his wins, but he also doesn't get enough credit for the guys that he has beat. Then, of course, he has the win against Petr Yan, then again against Petr Yan, where, in my opinion, he won this fight, but a lot of people also thought that Petr Yan won that fight. In my opinion, Aljamain Sterling did take this win. But then he had the win against TJ Dillashaw. Another thing is, TJ Dillashaw had one arm. And, of course, the Henry Cejudo fight. And in my opinion, he actually, I edged it so little towards Henry Cejudo in this fight, but I honestly, Aljamain Sterling winning is nothing to write home about. I'm like, if Aljamain Sterling won that fight, I remember at the end of the decision for that fight, I was like, if Aljamain Sterling wins, I don't even care. It was that close of a fight. So maybe my bias was just heading in there. So Aljamain Sterling has had lots and lots of wins, but there are asterisks next to it. So if you want to talk about records, though, let's talk about Sean O'Malley. So, Sean O'Malley also had asterisks next to his win up until his most recent fight. So, of course, he had the wins against, Thomas Almeida, Chris Moutinho, and Julian Paiva, which those losses, or those wins, haven't aged exactly well, and that's the problem. Sean O'Malley, it's who has he beat, really? But then he fought Pedro Munoz, and again, we didn't really get to see much, right? But, of course, it was a little bit of step up in competition. We saw a little bit going on there. I believe Pedro Munoz is a fantastic fighter, okay? But then, Petr Yan. I believe Sean O'Malley lost this fight against Petr Yan. But in this fight, Sean O'Malley proved to me, and I would imagine, I don't mean to say this as in, I'm just a guy behind the desk, obviously. I'm just sitting here talking about, hey, Sean O'Malley has to prove it to me. I don't mean it saying in that sense. It's I'm convinced. Sean O'Malley convinced me that he is championship material against this fight. Petr Yan, he had an amazing performance against this, and it was a close fight, but I did give this fight to Petr Yan. So both guys are coming off of very nice win streaks with asterisks to them. That's the biggest thing about their records right now. But for the rest of the tail of the tape, of course, you can see Aljamain Sterling's finally getting up there in age. He's he's 34 years old, and Sean O'Malley is just entering his prime at 28 years old. Of course, they both have been fighting in the bantamweight division. Sean O'Malley will have a height advantage, and to be honest with you, I thought Sean O'Malley would have a bigger reach advantage, but Aljamain Sterling has one of those, not Alexander Volkanovski builds, but when people just have deceivingly long arms. That's Aljamain Sterling. So it's a very interesting tail of the tape. So guys, to be honest with you here, there is it's really difficult to break down this fight because it's one of those classic striker versus grappler type situations. Aljamain Sterling is so good at jiu-jitsu and scrambles, and you have Sean O'Malley, who is a fantastic striker. This is a classic striker versus grappler. I'm not saying Aljamain Sterling definitely has subpar striking, and I feel bad saying that because of course he's a champion, but we've seen this guy on the feet and it's not overly impressive, while Sean O'Malley on the feet looks really good. And we have seen his grappling defense against Petr Yan, where his takedown defense was lacking, and that was a little bit of an issue, and I think he was a little bit exposed in that sense. But then again, he's been having a lot of time to train for this fight. He knew about this fight even before it was announced, you know what I mean? So Sean O'Malley is very good at squeezing those butterfly hooks, and he's very good at throwing those long legs up, maybe trying to... But if Sean O'Malley's throwing up defenses, let's say Aljamain Sterling does take him down, I have a very hard time seeing Sean O'Malley offer any sort of resistance. He may have been training so hard for this, and he may have shocked me against Petr Yan, okay? But Petr Yan's taking you down. Petr Yan, while he is a great fighter, he's not Aljamain Sterling. If Aljamain Sterling gets Sean O'Malley to the ground, I don't care how good his hooks are. I don't care how good his sweeps are. Aljamain Sterling is going to just roll over and squeeze himself into mount, side control, or take the back, and then probably find a submission after that. If he can't get the takedown, if Sean O'Malley can keep him at bay, maybe use those leg kicks while Aljamain Sterling is marching forward a little bit, to kind of take his feet away from him, then Sean O'Malley will have a clear path to victory. That's why it's so tough to break this down, because If this fight ends up on the ground, it's Aljamain Sterling, no doubt about it. If it's on the feet, Sean O'Malley, no doubt about it. That's pretty much all there is in my opinion. But here's the bigger thing, okay? I made a whole video talking about this a little while ago. Aljamain Sterling has been very, very vocal about not wanting to take this fight because Aljamain Sterling is injured, or he was injured. I don't know if he's still injured. We still don't know. That could also be Aljamain Sterling just throwing in a built-in excuse, which, in my opinion, that's, to be honest with you, it's a possibility because I don't like the way he won the belt against Petr Yan. It wouldn't shock me if he threw in a built-in excuse, but at the end of the day, I'm taking him for his word. He wasn't ready to take this fight. He was bullied into taking this fight, and the UFC, in his opinion, it's tough because I made a whole video talking about this situation because Aljamain Sterling was saying that the UFC was forcing him to take this fight, but I'm like, did the UFC really take your hand and just go, here you go, here's your signature, Aljamain Sterling, and it's like Dana White over his shoulder, like grabbing his arm, like signing it for him, you know what I mean? That definitely didn't happen. So is Aljamain Sterling telling the truth? Is Aljamain Sterling injured, or is he just saying that as a built-in excuse? Because again, his fight with Henry Cejudo, how long ago was it? I have it on the screen right now. 2 months ago he fought. 2 months ago. That is not enough time, and that was a hard fight. That was a hard fight with Henry Cejudo. He could very well be injured from that fight. That is not enough time to go into a match with Sean O'Malley, and Sean O'Malley and a guy who has been preparing for Aljamain Sterling for God knows how long. I want to say it was over a year. When was his last fight against Petr Yan? Let's see. 9 months ago. Since then, he essentially knew that he was going to fight Aljamain Sterling, and he had to have been working so hard. And Sean O'Malley has been talking about he hasn't been streaming, he hasn't been gaming, he's just been laser focused into his health, he's been laser focused into training. So this dude might come in more prepared against a weaker Aljamain Sterling than we are used to seeing, and that's a problem. That's something that I'm not so sure what to think about because again, Aljamain Sterling, what if he's injured? What if he's not? That's a big issue. But again, going back to these guys matching up, this fight's going to start on the feet. Sean O'Malley has that insane power. We've seen Aljamain Sterling finish before. I don't know what's going to happen when these two clash. Aljamain Sterling could get a hold of him. Sean O'Malley could knock him out. That is the biggest thing about this fight, and it's very, very tough to say who's going to come out on top when you have these two clash. It's somebody who is so good on the ground, somebody who is so good on the feet, and that's why this matchup is so interesting for me to find out. Plus, here's another thing. Aljamain Sterling, you could talk about how motivated they are too, because Aljamain Sterling, on one hand, he wants to go up to the 145-pound division, leave the division, and become a double champion. But then again, if he's already oh man, poor me, UFC's making me fight, I don't want to do this, I'm injured. What headspace is this dude in? Is he motivated to go in against 145-pound division, have a fight, and then take on Alexander Volkanovski, or go straight to Alexander Volkanovski? Is he motivated enough to do that? Or is he like I just said, where he's like, oh no, I'm hurt, I can't take on an up-and-comer like Sean O'Malley right now. And Sean O'Malley he's if you see this dude is razor focused. This dude is ready to come in. This dude is ready to win. So I see a huge problem with the headspace. Sean O'Malley's good to go, but Aljamain Sterling, I have questions about. I don't mean any disrespect when I say this about Aljamain Sterling. I truly don't. But the asterisk towards his wins and his attitude going into the fight and his attitude towards the UFC right now is something that is worth bringing up in my opinion. When these two match up, like I said, it's tough to tell that'll happen. This fight is... I'm kind of 60-40 on this fight. If you made me pick, I would pick Aljamain Sterling. That's going to be my official prediction. But there are too many questions for me to even lay down my money on it. You know what I mean? I'm not confident in my pick whatsoever. I think this fight could go either way. But I will be picking for my official prediction, Aljamain Sterling. I got to imagine that he will get this fight to the ground. And I would imagine that no matter what, he is going to find his way into a very, very dominant position and find a submission victory in this fight, guys. This is where I'll leave it up to you guys. What do you think about this entire fight? How do you think these two match up? Who do you think is going to win? I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. And thank you so much for watching this video. On the screen right now, you'll have 2 videos from the Clenbat channel if you'd like to continue watching the channel. I would appreciate it. Either way, I will see you either there or in the next video, guys. Take care.